Yay! Welcome, welcome. That was
Awesome.
some motivating music to get this party started, was it
I
not?
love it. I love it. That was awesome.
Thank you. So here we are, Speakers Lounge. We meet once a month on Mondays at 12 noon Eastern, where I have a new guest. And today I have Lynne Jensen-Nelson. And Lynne, to get this party started, I'm going to ask you a question. Are you ready for it?
I'm ready.
Okay. So you went from English teacher, you're a communication coach trainer, you're a powerhouse speaker, you do keynotes yourself. You've lived this really beautiful, amazing life. So if you were right now writing a book about your life, what would the current chapter title be and why?
Wow. I think that's a great question. And probably right now, I would say this particular chapter right now, this snapshot in time would be, it's time to celebrate, honestly. So April is the 10-year anniversary of Conversion-omics, which I'm really proud of. A lot of small businesses barely make it past year 3 and 5. And year 3 and 5 at Conversion-omics was COVID. Woo!
Woo!
So we had 56 events canceled in 48 hours. And I learned I could have liquor and Dairy Queen delivered to my house right here in Prior Lake, Minnesota that same day. So I think as a person who's always been a super grinder, hustler, hard worker, I'm really trying to take a little teeny bit of a pause right now and say, listen, we, the amazing team at Conversion-omics, we've made it to 10 years, which is fantastic. And we're going to take just a minute to do a little celebration.
Yes, we
And
are.
then
Yes, we
we're going to get
are.
right back to work tomorrow. But I think that's it. I've never been a person who spends a lot of time, but just, I'm so proud. I'm proud of our team. I'm proud of our office team, our speakers. So thankful to our clients. And I think I just need to take this minute to do that and then get back at it.
I love that. I feel like it's really important to take that time to celebrate our wins, especially when you hit these huge milestones. Like 10 years is a big deal, like you said, and especially getting through the pandemic. I mean, life happens. We see things thrown at us all the time, and to be able to just move through that with grace, and not all the time it's grace, I would
I
imagine.
was going to say, grace is a big word, Meredith. I appreciate you thinking that I handled it with grace.
You're welcome.
When it
You're
happened, I
welcome.
was joking with my admin team that I was like, we're going to change the name from Conversion-omics to anything for a buck. Like just keeping the wheels turning, like get virtually certified and create training programs and learn about job skills grants. And we just fought our way through it. And so, yeah, but again, I love the word grace. It's something that I'm trying to learn more about, but I'm not so sure it could be described as graceful. That's for sure.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, today what we're going to do is we're going to dig deep and talk about speaking. I want you to talk to us about your bureau and you as a keynote speaker, and let's just add as much possible value as we can in this time together for the people who are going to be watching and listening. And so far we have Diane Allen. Diane, it's great to see you. You're so welcome. We do this every first Monday of the month, so please come back. We have a new guest. If you have questions for either one of us, please put those in the chat or in the comments, because we would like to be here to help you out and your growth as a speaker or emerging speaker, wherever you are on that journey. And so, Lynne, I want to ask this question now for you, because I get this question often, which is, where do I start? Where do I start as a speaker? And you have a great perspective here for us, because you're not only a speaker where you were that person who was asking that question at one point in your life, but you also now have a bureau, so you get to see things from both ends. So there you have it.
Such a good question. And as you and I have chatted about in the past, I get this question just about every single day. And it's such a compliment. And Meredith, I know you do too, because people see you on stage and you're amazing and excited and passionate. And people are like, I want to be like Meredith. And so we get this question a lot. And here's the good news. There's so much good news. If you are a speaker right now who's maybe getting started, maybe you're doing a refresh, maybe you've been in the business for 5, 10, 20 years, you're like, man, I need a fresh perspective. I always highly recommend, and I love that I'm doing this podcast with you, because the first thing I recommend to people is get a coach, get a speaker coach. And I'll tell you, so I started as a keynote speaker about 12 years ago. And I was a speaker geek. You talked about it. I was in speech in high school. I was an English teacher. I coached I went back to college, got a master's degree in communication because I've always been so fascinated by why do people do what they do and say what they say.
Mm-hmm.
So after having this amazing career, I was recruited into the construction industry where I got into sales and leadership and had all these wonderful opportunities to grow and learn and amazing mentors. And then after owning some different businesses, I finally thought to myself, years ago, I had said, I want to be a keynote speaker. And the person that I told that to was one of my mentors. And he's like, oh, it's a terrible life. It's no good. It's so hard. You can't, have a family. And like, he just kind of scared me away from it. And so I came back to it again years later. But when I started out, there weren't speaker coaches. Maybe there were, but you didn't see them. They weren't as prevalent.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I started, I had gone and I like committed to going out and seeing as many other speakers as I could. I want to see professional speakers. I want to, befriend professional speakers. And I went to an event. I saw this woman who was fantastic. And I hung around after the event and I asked her, I said, hey, I would like to hire you. Can I just pay you whatever you give me a dollar amount for an hour of your time? I just want to pepper you with questions about how did you get started? How did you set your speaker fee? How do you find client? All the questions you have. And she's like, no, I'm like, really, I will pay you. Like, I'm not going to pick your brain. I will pay. And she's like, nope, absolutely not. Someday you might be my competitor. Why would I want to give
What? No.
So, that's just what happened. And so what I recommend, Friday, I was doing a keynote down in Dallas, Texas, and I had 3 people come up to me saying, I really want to be a speaker. I want to go from here to here. And number one, find a coach. And again, Meridith is amazing, but there's if you can find a way to squeeze into her schedule, do that. But if not, find an actual speaker coach. And I do recommend finding a speaker coach that even if they're not a keynote speaker now, that they have been a keynote speaker. I think that's really important.
Mm-hmm.
That they understand what it's like putting yourself out there. And the first time somebody says, hey, you look great, what's your speaker fee? I know for me, I was
that was a beautiful transition, Lynn. Because I would imagine that's a second question that a lot of people come up and ask you about. Yes.
So speaker fees, everyone asks about speaker fees. And I will say, and again, Meridith, I don't know about you, but I think even personally, it's one of the biggest challenges is how do how do you set that speaker fee? And I think it's really smart to be intentional about it and to work with somebody who's outside. Because I find, we work with new speakers all the time and even some experienced speakers. And I find that newer speakers tend to be in one box or the other. Like their speaker, they figured out like some sort of an hourly amount. And so it's ridiculously low.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's the other end that they've read a book somewhere that said every speaker should start at $15,000. And then they don't get booked. And they'll come to me and I'll say, here's my advice. If you work with bureaus, be confident in your speaker fee. So whatever that is, we always say here, we honor our speakers. We honor them, their fees, who they want to work with, when they want to work. We honor all of that. But they'll say, well, my speaker fee is $15,000. And my question is, okay, where have you been booked for that? Well, I did this one and then it added, and then be confident in it, but make sure the value makes sense.
Yeah.
So, and with speaker fees too, I'm a big fan, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I like having some options. So I like having like, hey, here's my market rate, and then here's our VIP package, and add some additional thing. Maybe you do a keynote and you do an additional breakout or Q&A or autograph. A lot of our high-end speakers add a follow-up Zoom meeting. It's a 1-hour Q&A for everybody who's in attendance a month later. Those kind of value adds. We'll do a video that you can share on social media that get people excited. I'll share it with my social media platform. Think of some of those kind of VIP packages.
Mm-hmm.
And I will tell you, historically, over half the time, they go with the extended package as long as they have value. That's the key. And if I may, what one of my passions is, have a keynote that has deliverables.
Yes.
And the deliverables, the takeaways, if you will, think about your audience. Okay. These are your customers, and your client is your customer too, but really it's the audience. What challenges are they facing? And how does your presentation solve those challenges? That's the key. And there's lots of different kinds of speakers out there. There's some that are sales strategists. There's some that are leadership strategists. There's some that have this incredibly unique. Diane, who's on visiting with us today, she's a musician who brings in being this amazing violinist and talk about flow and how that impacts your audience. It can't just be, here's my story, here's what's interesting about me. It has to be from the audience's perspective. What will they be able to do? And the more concrete it is, the better. Like the audience, because it can't just be generic. It can't be, they'll leave inspired or, motivated, which I love. Information, motivation, inspiration. We love that.
Yeah.
But it's got to be specific deliverables, the specific ways your audience's lives will change or improve. And that helps drive up that keynote speaker fee. So it's all tied together, which is why you need an outside person looking in to help figure that out.
No, I love that. And I feel that it's incredibly important. It is, yes, your story is commonly what got you there to that stage, and it's
Sure.
important. And your credibility is what got you there to that stage, which is also important. But it is, how are you going to change the lives of the people that are in that audience, and what is it that they're going to take with them? Because part of it too is you don't want to blend in with everybody else. You want to stand out. You want people talking about you when they leave the event. They want you to remember you when they're unpacking their suitcase, right?
Exactly.
And sadly, oftentimes I'll hear a few speakers in a row and I can't differentiate one from the next. And if one
Right.
more person tells me that I'm enough, right? Like,
Or the starfish story,
or the
or
starfish, yes. So it's like, how are you differentiating yourself? So we have this is fantastic. I have a couple other questions if they come back to me, because I want to acknowledge some of our audience here. So Lena asked, what are some of the things you see as VIP or extended versus standard for every client?
Okay, so a couple, and again, you're hitting on all my hot buttons here. Language affects perception. So I recommend whatever is your, I'm gonna use your word standard, although I hate the word, but this is your basic, this is where the entry level, which I recommend you call market rate. That is the market rate. So that
Mhm.
means anybody who asks me about what I'm presenting on, if they want to book me for one of my 3 keynotes or 5 keynotes or 1 keynote, it is X dollars.
Mhm.
And then I like having, but I call that market rate, not standard, not basic, market rate. Then the psychology of decision making, 2 options is really best, but we've gotten so accustomed to good, better, best that we do 3. Just make sure they're really distinct. And so
Mhm.
maybe market rate is just whatever you would do for anybody. And then you've got kind of your next level. And even if you call it next level, and that might be adding, here's another tip I'll give you. Clients, if they're doing conferences, they love bonuses that include things like you get a bonus, a Zoom session with your board of directors before the conference,
Mm.
or your committee before the conference. So not only do they become knowledgeable, they start being ambassadors, but also a lot of board of directors are might be volunteers. Maybe there's somebody who's new. They like getting that little extra something, something. Maybe you're a guest in their monthly meeting, something like that. It could be your additional features might be books. It might be a Zoom meeting, a Q&A Zoom meeting after. A lot of our high-end speakers have evergreen materials. And so you get access to their leadership academy for 6 months or something like that. And in some ways, the VIP might be, like I said, the video. It might be an assessment. It might be access to a vault of information that you have. Maybe you have a downloaded white pages. Oh, momentum session. Lena, of course you have that
Ooh, I
brilliant
love
idea.
that. Love
Love
that.
that idea. Lena is really, really fantastic. She's one of our team members here, and that's perfect. I love that. It just, and people feel like it's extra, and it frankly, it'll make you more impactful at the event because people already know you. Your speaker intro will feel more personal. You all know we've been up there and the person's reading your speaker intro off the phone, and they know you wrote it, and it's just like, blah, blah, blah. But if they've had a session with you in advance, all of a sudden it'd be like, hey, we know this person. Like, I'm so excited. We had a project with this person. We loved him. We loved her. We know you're going to. It just builds up momentum, and it offers so much more.
Oh, I think that's beautiful. I love that VIP. I love don't call yourself basic. You're not basic and you're not
Right.
standard.
Market.
You're
And there might
market.
be other words. Maybe your audience too has other words for that. I like market because I feel
Yeah.
like that. I don't like basic. I don't like entry level. I just think it elevates your whole brand.
Words have meaning, words have meaning.
Yeah.
Okay. So you got me thinking because we were at Jamar Jones retreat here in New York City
Yep.
not too long ago. It was what, 6 months ago? It feels like
Right.
it was yesterday, but it was 6 months ago. And we were talking a lot about day rate versus half day rate versus and I've been in situations where I've been called to be a speaker and I'll notice some speakers just show up and then they leave. I'm the type that if you're paying me, I'm going to be there because I want to get to know you. I want to get to know the participants. I want to get to know my audience. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Great question. And for those of you, day rate, most speakers, and again, I feel like this is kind of that elevated speaker.
Mhm.
Um, and I explained it to clients too. I just said, listen, I'm there. I work for you. Like you want me to greet people. You want me to stick around for Q&A over the lunch break. You want, your sponsors. You want me to do something special with them. For most people, I do recommend having a day rate. And that just means, and some people will break it down like half day or a full day. I mean, let's be honest. If you're going to fly from New York to Dallas, Texas, you're going to probably be there for the day, but you do have to meet those commitments. If you use day rate and then you're one of these run in, run out, that's going to be an issue. But most speakers do exactly what you said. Like, I'll stick around. If you have one, I'll do a bonus breakout session.
Mhm.
I just find people, and here's what I'll tell you: 92% of the clients that come to us as a bureau have never booked a speaker before. They don't know, they don't know budgets, and they don't know rates, and they don't know speakers, and they're like, I don't know. So I like to there if you are breaking it down to, like, I have some speakers though who have a 45-minute rate, a 1 hour rate, a 90-minute rate, a half a day rate. And that gets really confusing to people because it looks like you get paid by the minute.
Yeah.
I do like to say, hey, this is a day rate. Certainly there may be a difference. I know for my own personal speaking business, if I'm there, I'm there. So I don't charge a different rate, whether it's 60 minutes or 3 hours. Certainly if it's a full day, it might be a little bit different. But it's funny, for most people, a full day is actually less than a keynote, which gets really confusing and complicated. So I do like a day rate. And I think it's good to be able to say, hey, I'm going to fly in the day before, which I'm sure you've talked about. Please
Mhm.
don't ever travel on the day of your event, even if
No,
your event
please.
starts at 8 o'clock at night. Never, 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 never do that. Always fly in the day before, and let your clients know you're going to do that.
Mhm.
Let them know. That has value too. Listen, I'm always going to fly in the day before. I will be on site so I can do AV checks or meet with you or meet with the person doing your intro. Sorry, this is the hot button. Make sure the person doing your intro, you've met that person, talked to that person. They know how to pronounce your name properly. They're not going to put in an inappropriate bathroom joke. Like, set yourself up for success, which I know was not on our original plan to talk about, Meredith, but
No,
please.
I think it's incredible. I was just actually thinking about the last event that I did or the previous one to that, and the person just kept mispronouncing my name.
Yes.
Like, even though I said it like and because I didn't get it was the last minute thing. I didn't know that that was the person that was gonna be introducing me, and I wish I had been a little bit more in tune.
I recommend that's on your checklist. I hope y'all
Yeah.
have speaker checklists,
Yep.
pre-event planning checklists. And that should be something like connect with them on LinkedIn. Ask if you can set up a quick phone call. You might think, with I have hyphenated last name, it confuses. I had no idea how confusing that was for people, but it's really
Yeah.
confusing.
Yeah.
I'll even talk to the person doing the intro, and I will even say, would you like say I'll walk up from the left side, you'll exit on the right
I do
side.
that.
Let's
Yep.
meet in the middle. Usually I do a handshake. Are you comfortable with a handshake? Because
Mhm.
there's nothing worse than getting on stage and they're going in for like the halfway hug and you're doing the handshake and you can't get the mic and who's got the clicker and ugh,
Yep. Oh my
control
gosh.
what you can control, right?
So talk to me a little bit. All this is amazing, and I hope everyone's taking copious notes right now. And if you do have a question for either one of us, please go ahead and put that in the chat. So Lynn, talk to me about, we talked a lot about in person, and
Yes.
there's a lot of still virtual. So talk to me about rates in person versus virtual, because you wouldn't charge a full day rate for a virtual event.
Great question. And actually, I think with everything going on in the universe right now, I think we're going to go back to be doing a bit more virtual again.
Yeah.
You know, it's like everything, it's cyclical, and people went through it in COVID, everybody got really good at it and then moved away, like this big push passed. But I think we're going to go back to doing more virtual in the future, just until things kind of settle down
Mhm.
in general. So here's what I will tell you. That does get a little bit tricky, and I'll just share with you how we have 95 speakers on our team, and it does vary a little bit. I think if you are a speaker in what I'm just going to call that more affordable rate. So I'm just going to, if you're in that 10,000 and under rate, I think that we pushed hard that, listen, you're getting the same exact value. The great news is you're saving on all the travel fees.
Yeah.
So that's where we like to start. I mean, the fact of the matter is, you know, if you're in that, you know, 7,500, 5,500 range, I think you could definitely make that happen. Most of our speakers that are in that, you know, that next tier, which is not the highest tier, you know, there's former presidents making, you know, $350,000. I'm going to assume most of us are in that kind of that middle category.
Mhm.
And so I do see the speakers saying, hey, you know, I would be willing to drop that. I personally don't start there. I start with, here's the value of that presentation, whether it's the good, and I also share the good news. You save on travel, you save on food, you save on hotels. Like all of that savings comes from the venue, the food, the coffee, and the travel. But the rate still, you know, this presentation still has amazing value, and that rate is X. Now, you know, again, most of our speakers are like, listen, if I don't have to spend 2 days on the road, I can sleep in my own bed. You know, they are usually willing to go to a lower rate, but we don't start there. I never start
I
there. I
love that.
start at your rate is your rate. And all these, I want to remind them of all the other savings first before we look at discounting that fee. And not everybody might agree with that. That's how we do it.
I think that's terrific. I agree with you. I've heard that, and I feel like it is difficult because you're like, oh, but I could be in my slippers and give a presentation. Okay, that's you. You do you. But
But
um, but I love the clarity.
But to that point, if I'm going to say I need to get the same rate as if I was on
You better
stage in
show up.
Vegas,
Yep.
you better put
Better
on
show
a show.
up. Yeah.
You better put on a show. I mean, this is not you sitting with your Christmas decorations still behind you. Like, you better, if you're, you know, it's got to be a show. I mean, these are presentations. As you know, I don't like the word talk. I
No,
think talking is what we do with our pals. It's not what we do with a client. And I think, you know, you better have an intro. You better do a practice session. You better have a takeaway. Like, make it impactful, make it worthy of that fee that you're proposing.
I love that. Help us out a little bit because I know we have varied levels of people on their speaker journeys that are watching right now. So also put in, if you have additional things that you would like to say that has inspired you, go ahead and put that in the comments too. Because what we're doing here is we're here to lift each other up and help each other out.
Exactly.
So another question I have for you that I'm assuming that some of our listeners and watchers right now are thinking is, what is the difference between a bureau and an agency? Can you help us out
Oh,
there?
great question. Such a good question. So bureaus and Conversion-omics is a very small boutique bureau. So there are bureaus out there that download, you know, 5,000 speakers off of eSpeakers. We're a boutique bureau, but bureaus essentially run the same. So a bureau represents usually a larger number of professional speakers in a lot of different topic areas they work around. But each of the speakers in their bureau is an independent contractor. So you run your own business, you're still out there generating your own jobs. You know, they're meant to be a complement to what you're already doing. Agencies or speaker agents, typically they represent a smaller number of speakers. So they might represent 5 to 10 speakers. And also an agent or an agency, usually those two terms are kind of used interconnectedly. I think I just made that word up. I don't think that's a real word. But they usually only represent a certain number. And for that small number of speakers, that 5 speakers, 10 speakers, they manage all of the business. So the speaker doesn't go out and generate their own business. If you're going to hire, Joe speaker or Julie speaker, then you have to go through that agent, and that agent manages all of the business. In both cases, they usually work on commission. Obviously, I can't speak for every single bureau in the world or every agency, but both of them typically do work on a commission that is in our case, it's a flat fee. Some have a sliding scale. But before you would partner with them, that is something that you should have a contract or an agreement that you would go through and clarify.
Okay, terrific. Thank you for clarifying because I'm sure that that was a question looming in somebody's head. We have Andy here who asked a couple of questions here, so I'm going to read this out to you. What do you think about the popularity of the resiliency topic? Do you want to speak into
That
that
has been
first?
like the number one topic for a long time. And then I love that. What do I think about it? I think it's really common, and I don't think we have. I don't think we have less of a need for resiliency right now. We thought we needed it in 2019, then we knew we needed it in 2020, and we definitely need it in 2025. My recommendation is I do think it's still a hot topic. I really do. Um, the most popular topics. So that's if I maybe I can just morph
Yeah,
that a little.
that would be awesome.
Yeah. So here's what I will tell you. Most conference managers have like two things in their heads when they're looking for a conference speaker. Well, maybe there's three. So there's like sales, there's leadership, and then there's like this motivation category. I do think people are still asking about resiliency, but what our clients, they're not using that word as much anymore. The word that which is basically the adaptability, like handling change. That's people
Mhm.
used to always ask for resiliency. Now our clients are being more, they're asking like, how do I handle change? Because there's a lot of it, which is resiliency. So I wouldn't lose that. I just think when you think about the title that you create, which could be a whole nother session, and I'm sure you've probably covered this already, but just make sure that it's in there, that people understand what specific, skills are you going to cover when it comes to resiliency. So it's still a pretty common thing.
Oh, that's terrific. Thank you for that. There's another one. I have a bureau question. Do bureaus want to receive regular updates from speakers and in what form? Is it common to have an annual or quarterly call to discuss the relationship? And I don't want to reach out, but I don't want to overstep. Great
What a
question.
great question, Lena. You're awesome. Thank you for that great question. Here's what I will. It is the speaker's responsibility to make sure the information that the bureau has is up to date. So I think as bureaus get busier and busier, and I think about when I started life as a keynote speaker working with bureaus, and I kept thinking there's got to be a better way, right? Like there were things that they'd hold dates and not get back to me, or they were only pitching me for like the worst projects. And I thought, hey, I'll take the bad projects and then they'll give you the bigger projects, or not getting updates and things like that. So what I would recommend is always look at their website. Right. So most
Yep.
bureaus, you have something on their website, whether ours, you have a custom page. Other bureaus, it looks more like, like kind of an Amazon, like you can see everybody all on the same page. It is your responsibility to make sure that website is updated. And I highly recommend that you put that on your calendar, whether that's quarterly or monthly or whatever that might be. I know here we do love updates. It can be challenging. I've got 95 speakers. So if 95 people wanted to do like a quarterly meeting, like that might get challenging. But usually, like on our team, we have a project manager. If you wanted to do an update or a check-in, definitely I would lead that. I would just
Mhm.
say, hey, I looked at the website, things look great, but I want you to be aware of these new marketing tools or these new resources. Certainly be proactive in that. Absolutely.
I think that's a great question. And Lynn, I want to add to that too, which is if you're a professional speaker, and I come from an acting background, and the one thing that I always did was I got new headshots every year because I'm
Hmm.
going to look like a different person every year. I also feel that that's true for your personal brand. And if you
Yeah.
are a speaker, that is also true. I am not the same person today as I was 2 years ago. I am
You
not,
know, and
yeah,
they last less and less time. I mean, it used to be headshots and speaking every 3 years, then it was 2 years. And to your point, I feel the same way. Like you want people to know who's coming, like who is it, who do you see? So, and headshots have gotten more and more affordable too. So yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Headshots, media kits, make sure it's current. Like if you did a whole bunch of stuff during 2020 to make it more about online and you can tell, like you can look at media kits and know exactly when they were made because the style changes all the time. And it
It
is
does,
one of
it's
those things.
rapid. It's rapid, but that's a great way to be in touch with, your agency or your bureau. It's like,
Right.
"I have updated materials, here they are, can we do this?" Like, it's so it gives you also a reason to check in.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah,
There are, bureaus are all run by human beings, and the fact of the matter is that you want to stay in front, and I also recommend too, like just like you would with any client, a bureau is basically a client. Follow them on social media, engage in their stuff. Like all of that is really, really valuable, and that way too, you might have a better feel for what is hot right now, who is getting booked, that kind of a thing. So yeah, I think that's wonderful.
and send out little things like, "Thank you so much for the opportunity," and, "You're amazing," and, "I watched your keynote," and
Well, and tag the bureau. I recommend too, if you want your bureau to love you, whoever it is, tag them in your post about it. And
Yeah.
that kind of partnership is really, really valuable. And I think sometimes we forget. You all know, you watch your social and you know who engages and who doesn't, and that kind of a thing. It does help with the partnership, or offer to write a blog that they might feature in their social media, or those kinds of things definitely have value. Great question.
I love that, I love that. Okay, we have another question here. Emil, as someone who is new to public speaking, what would be your advice in finding my niche and the different delivery opportunities in the market currently?
So that's a great question. And I'll just talk to you about experience. So whether it's my experience, I'm guessing Meredith, a lot of speakers, oftentimes we start in the industry where we have the most experience. So if you were a teacher, or you worked in construction or healthcare, or because most people, that's the catalyst. And I haven't had the chance yet to meet you, but I hope you reach out and we can get connected. But usually that's where you start. Like that's, people know you, they already love you. And so that can be really helpful. If you're making a big jump, like from one, hey, I've been in healthcare my whole life, but now I want to get into something completely different, I would say use your resources. LinkedIn is I'm a big LinkedIn fan.
Mhm,
Who do you know that has experience there? Certainly reach out to speakers. I also am a big fan of either finding a fabulous coach like Meredith, or learn about NSA, the National Speakers Association. You don't have to be a part of NSA, but I know a lot of especially new speakers have found that to be incredibly valuable. Each state has an NSA chapter, so
yep.
I would reach out, and usually the leaders in the local NSA are amazing. Like everywhere, every NSA I've ever worked with, the people who are there driving it are not only experienced, successful speakers, but just fantastic champions and ambassadors of the industry. So
Mhm.
that would be my recommendation. And just getting that start, either starting where you are or finding that outside resource to help direct you. Because there's tons of them now. There's so many
So
great
many,
resources now.
so many. Um, this has been amazing and really valuable information, Lynn. And so I want to make sure that people reach out to you. So if you are not following Lynn yet right now, please do here on LinkedIn. If you are on YouTube, please find her on LinkedIn. I'm also going to put up here my fancy QR code. So you can connect with Lynn here as well on Conversion-omics and reach out to her because she's a wealth of information. She's an amazing, very dynamic keynote speaker too. So if you do have an event where you are looking for speakers, you can also hire her as well as be a resource to her. So very cool that you get to you're doing. I love that you're doing it both. Um, and yeah, if you do need further support as a speaker, I also, yes, do one-on-one coaching, but I have a confidently speaking program, which is a group coaching program. I call it like an improv workout. It's like a gym workout for speakers. We meet every week. It's a very supportive group of humans as well. And let's, before we close out, what is one word of wisdom or an action? Let's do this. What's one action step that you invite our watchers and listeners to take
Oh
today?
my gosh, you just said the magic word. Only action changes things, right? So, wishing to be a better speaker, hoping to be a better speaker, complaining about not getting enough speaking gigs never changed anything. So, only action changes things. And that's why I recommend getting connected is such a smart, easy thing to do. Take 5 minutes right now after this and connect with maybe the people you saw in the chat or us, or learn about your local NSA, or look at national NSA, or just, research there's opportunities out there. But I just can't stress enough, only action changes things. So just get out there. The world needs to hear your story. And the only way that happens is by being intentional and getting out there and taking that first step. And I'm sure all the speakers that are here will tell you that's the hardest part. It's the hardest part, to go from wanting to do something to actually, like, okay, let's break down. Here's the things I need to do. That first step is, then you get that catalyst, the next step, the connections. I think we can all look back on one contact that created all of these great things, but you got to get out there. You can't do it
Gotta get
sitting
out
home
there.
and thinking about it.
Yep, because your voice matters, your story matters, your
Yes.
expertise matters. We need to hear it. So go ahead, and if you want accountability for that, take that action step and leave it in the comments once you've taken that action, and we'll be there to cheer you on. All right, Lynne, you're amazing. I'm so glad that we had this opportunity to talk, and you just shared a lot of value. Thank you so much. This was such a pleasure to have you. I'm going to play that outro music one more time. Are you ready? Just
Ready.
because, I mean, let's do this.
Oh, yes, yes.